In response to increasing censorship by the left, the rise of free speech warriors on the right is understandable, but a return to free speech is not going to solve our problem. In this video, I'll cover why freedom of speech doesn't work and what should replace it. The American founders established free speech on the foundation of Enlightenment faith in reason, which saw open debate as a crucible for truth, where all ideas could compete and the strongest would prevail. The First Amendment reflects this faith in a free marketplace of ideas. Thomas Jefferson captured this spirit when he wrote that, quote, "error of opinion may be tolerated so long as reason is left free to combat it," end quote. And James Madison likewise believed that, quote, "in a republic, light will prevail over darkness, truth over error," end quote. As it turns out, this optimism was misguided. The American founders were brilliant and educated men, but they lacked an adequate understanding of human nature and did not foresee how technology would later tilt the scales toward deception. Freedom of speech fails for several reasons. First, preference for affirmation over falsification. Second, lack of cognitive capacity. Third, asymmetric control of information. And fourth, absence of accountability. Let's go through each of them. First, most people seek affirmation rather than truth. In his book, The Righteous Mind, contemporary psychologist Jonathan Haidt likens the human mind to a rider on an elephant. The elephant represents our deep and powerful subconscious self, home to our instincts, moral intuitions, and emotions that drive most patterns of thought and behavior. This part of ourselves operates continuously, automatically, and with little to no effort. The rider, on the other hand, represents our conscious, deliberative, reasoning self, the part of our mind capable of crafting arguments and weighing evidence. Most people greatly overestimate the rider's willingness and capacity to seek the truth. In practice, for most people, the conscious rider simply works to justify already clung to beliefs and to excuse one's behavior, acting more as a lawyer or press secretary than a careful, rational scientist. In matters of morality and politics, people first feel something, disgust, fear, empathy, etc., and then use their reasoning faculty to defend what they already feel to be right. In matters of public debate, then, most people aren't really seeking truth, they're simply cheering for their elephant's team. Second, most people lack the agency and intelligence necessary for decidability. Cognitive labor is expensive. Truth-seeking requires both high agency, the will to act on reason, and sufficient intelligence, the ability to model causal structure and detect error. Yet the evidence shows that the majority, perhaps 80% of the population, falls below the threshold for independent rational deliberation on abstract or unfamiliar topics. Speech is an advanced domain of conflict, and only a minority can navigate it competently. Hence, most people defer to authority, heuristics, or emotion, holding on to beliefs that feel comfortable and signal belonging to the group. Third, asymmetric control enables industrialized deceit. When control over information channels is concentrated, those in control can industrialize deceits and suppress or deplatform their opposition. This asymmetry allows minority groups, particularly those trained in management and media, to exploit public ignorance, shaping perception and policy without exposure to adversarial correction. Fourth, speakers are not held accountable and therefore lies are cheap. Unlike in commerce, where goods and services are expected to be fit for purpose and sellers held liable for harm, a public speaker can mislead millions of people, yet not be held accountable for the resulting harms. This creates opportunities to capitalize off of the selling of false promises, and selects for rhetoric that maximizes reach and resonance regardless of truth. Unfettered free speech allows purveyors of information to capture and direct the public's attention, control the narrative, induce desired behavior, and externalize the costs, all without consequences.
Exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
We've now seen why free speech fails under current conditions. The contemporary sociologist and polymath Curt Doolittle offers the remedy: testimonialism. Unlike the founders' laissez-faire optimism, Doolittle recognizes that a constitutional right to free speech is insufficient. Speech to the public in matters public must be subject to constraints of truthfulness, reciprocity, and warranty. It must be testimonial. We already demand this standard in other domains. In contract law, if you make a promise and break it, you are liable for damages. In legal testimony, if you lie in court, you can be charged with perjury. In commerce, if you sell a faulty product or make false claims about it, you can be sued for fraud or misrepresentation. Testimonialism says that public speech should be no different. If it causes harm or deceives the public, speakers should be held liable, just as they would in any other public domain. Testimonialism is the formalization and completion of the Western tradition of truth-telling, which goes back to our Indo-European ancestors who practiced martial reporting. As small, decentralized, mobile bands, their survival depended on accurate assessment, reporting, and maintenance of high levels of in-group trust. If a member of the Mannerbund misrepresented the strength or position of an enemy group, it could easily lead to disaster for everyone involved. Over time, this imperative gave rise to the uniquely Western norm of putting truth before face, even at personal cost. This norm eventually became law, institutionalized in the familiar legal oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. In non-Western civilizations, reputation, family honor, or harmony superseded truth. But in the West, truth was the necessary condition for survival, and testimonialism operationalizes this ethic. The method of testimonialism goes as follows. Part 1. Testimonialism requires that all public claims pass the tests of due diligence, which define what truth means in practice. Because all truth claims are contingent on context and bounded by cognitive limits, testimonialism seeks not perfect certainty, but decidability, a state where a claim is sufficiently free of error, bias, or deception to be acted upon without involuntary imposition on others. The first checkpoint toward decidability is the tests of due diligence, which are as follows. 1. Categorical consistency, or unambiguity of identity, meaning we ensure terms have clear, consistent definitions without ambiguity or shifting meanings. 2. Logical consistency, or internal correspondence, meaning premises and conclusions must not contradict one another. 3. Empirical consistency, or external correspondence, meaning claims must align with the observable evidence. 4. Operational consistency, or existential possibility, meaning claims must be expressible as a sequence of real-world actions. 5. Rational consistency, or correspondence to incentives, meaning the speaker's incentives must align with the implications of the claim. 6. Moral consistency, or reciprocity, meaning the claim must not mask parasitic or deceptive intent under moral pretense. And 7. Scope consistency, or full accounting, meaning the claim must address all relevant variables without overgeneralization. After passing tests of due diligence, a claim must also satisfy the test of reciprocity to ensure the claim does not impose involuntary costs on the demonstrated interests of in-group members and allies. Reciprocity demands that we limit our word, deed, and display to that which is voluntary, fully informed, warranted, productive, and free of negative externalities. And so we would ask, is the speech voluntary, free from coercion or manipulation? Is the audience fully informed, with access to relevant facts and risks? Is the claim warranted, with the speaker accepting liability? Does the claim produce value for the informational commons? And does the claim avoid externalizing harms onto the demonstrated interests of others? Part 3. Warranty and liability. It's crucial to understand that public speech is not simply a privilege but a product, and like any product offered to the public, it must come with a warranty. If this information causes harm or is false, I take responsibility. Just as we criminalize fraud in business, which pollutes the economic commons, or pollution in nature within the material commons, so we must criminalize deceitful speech, which pollutes the informational commons. The informational commons is no less vital. In fact, it's more so, because it mediates coordination across the others. Testimonialism thus functions as a sequence of filters, where truth, reciprocity, and warranty purify the informational commons from error, bias, wishful thinking, and deceit, thereby ensuring the integrity of public discourse. Let's apply the testimonial method to a popular claim. Diversity is our strength. Step 1. Due diligence. Categorical consistency. Diversity here is undefined. Does it mean racial, cultural, or ideological? Logical consistency. Strength requires unity, yet diversity fractures unity, so the claim is illogical. Empirical consistency. Data shows that diverse societies tend to be less cohesive, falsifying the claim. Operational consistency. No clear mechanism is provided to show how diversity creates strength. Rational consistency. Advocates often benefit politically or economically from diversity, which is a misalignment of incentives and outcome. Moral consistency. The claim disguises special interests under moral pretense. And scope consistency. The claim ignores trade-offs, like social friction, cultural dilution, genetic pollution, and political instability. Step 2. Reciprocity. The claim is not reciprocal. It imposes costs on others without consent, full disclosure, or compensation. Step 3. Warranty. Advocates of diversity are not held accountable when diversity fails to deliver promised benefits and externalizes harms. Conclusion. Diversity is our strength, lacks consistency, imposes costs, is advanced without accountability, and therefore fails testimonial review. This simple example exposes the flaw in the current conception of free speech. Testimonialism does not censor speech, but disciplines it. It preserves public speech as a tool for truth and the common good, restores epistemic order, and arms courts, the judges, juries, and prosecutors, with objective criteria to test public speech, whether by politicians, journalists, academics, or medical authorities. So forget free speech. We need truthful, reciprocal, accountable speech. Like any commons, the informational commons must be defended, and we must punish those that would pollute it. As European men, our tradition is one of truth before face, and truth with liability. Public speakers must be held to account. No more lies.